I'm Nic Renison and I farm with my husband Paul and our two kids at Canahirf, hard to pronounce, on the edge of the Pennines really. We kind of look towards the Lake District. Our land goes up to 1,000 foot, or just over 1,000 foot. Farmhouse is about 800 foot. And that picture there shows the Helm Bar. And when we moved to the farm, we've been here for 10 years, we didn't know anything about the Helm Wind. And the chap who lived down the road said that when the Helm Wind's on, they used to put metal buckets on their heads and cut slits for eye holes. And I remember thinking, yeah, right. But when the Helm Wind's on and it's an easterly wind and it's the most horrific wind, it's the only named wind in the country and it is horrendous. So we soon realised when we got here that the need for shelter for ourselves as well as the livestock was really important. And it forms this bar and it kind of rolls. It's like a tornado on its side. So this is a lovely day. And if you went 3 miles away to the local village, you could drop a feather. And here it's a roaring sound and it's just horrendous. So we thought we need to get some trees planted. This picture here is just to illustrate, it's not a great site, just lots of plastic tubes sitting there with not much growth. At the beginning, I found the thought of planting trees and our landscape looking like this for a couple of years quite daunting. We've got quite a lot of big open fields. The whole reason why the agroforestry, or just hedge planting, I like to call it really, has worked so well for us is because our animals graze in rotation. So ideally, they're in 2-acre paddocks. So lots of our fields are kind of 12, 13 acres. So the idea that we can split some of those fields with hedges and then subdivide off that, it just works really well for the way we farm. But you'll see on that picture there, it's quite a treeless, hedgeless landscape. There's blocks of conifers and stuff, but there's nothing really interlinking anything. And that's the Eden Valley, I think, is probably quite bad for that. Well, carbon footprinting wasn't on our agenda at all when we started this. Wildlife wasn't really, it was a little bit, but the main thing was shelter and being able to manage the farm better. But those two things, the wildlife and the carbon, has come on the back of the planting. So in 2013, we entered a higher level stewardship agreement and we did lots of capital works on that, lots of reinstating hedges that had been pulled out a long time ago, lots of boundaries, walls, and also some riparian corridors, and just some blocks of woodland in corners of fields which were not particularly productive. And Pete Leeson, who is one of our mates really now, he's our woodland trust man, and he was kind of paramount to making that happen. And I'd never planted a tree in my life, and neither had Paul. And he was just really good at being at the end, on the end of a phone, and actually coming to actually help us plant trees. I think going forward, that hand-holding has been a real benefit. And he's learned a lot about farming, and we've learned a lot about trees. The Pond Bren project, I can remember the catalogue from that project was on in our bathroom for a couple of years. It was seeing those very plain tree guards and then seeing the progression through. And that's what gave me the confidence, really. It's something that we should do. So I think we need more Pond Brens around the place. And then just as we've got further into the agroforestry and further into the whole regenerative farming movement, YouTube and Twitter and the kind of networks you form on social media have been really important. And the other thing is we've taken lots of photos and you change the landscape a lot and you forget how far you've come. And then the wildlife, and there's that saying, isn't it? Build it and they will come, something like that. And that's what's happened. We have a lot more birds now. And I think as farmers, we've kind of got used to quite a silent landscape. I know there's pockets of good stuff, but generally it's quite a silent landscape. And I think we are now, nature is coming back. And then long term, whether our kids farm here or whether someone else's kids farm here, I think it's just nice to know that you're planting for the next generation. So what does it look like? So this was a corner of a field just up our drive. And it was an unproductive bit. As you can see, the sheep have kind of been charging around there, and it was all set stop prior to us coming here, so it's all quite overgrazed, and absolutely no biodiversity at all. That little cross there, keep an eye on that, and then that's it. 6 years later, hopefully it will never ever go back what it looked like before. And it's just, if you walk through there, it's the kind of life that's in there. It just blows your socks off, really. And then this was our hedge. So if you picture this field, All this had before was just a plain post and wire fence down the middle. And we put the hedge on a sod kest, 7 foot wide. And this is where I quite often tell the story, but I had a breakdown when we did this, because bear in mind, we moved here, we've got huge borrowing on the farm. We'd paid so much per acre for the land. And then Reno had this idea that we were going to fence it out and put trees in it. I was in my purely production paradigm there. And now I can see this is probably my most favorite thing we've actually done. So that's it fenced up, and you'll see the creosote posts. That was it, I think in 2018. Doing the sod kest did promote weed growth, but I think that was counteracted by better take of the trees. And then that's it in 21. And we're thinking whether we should lay that now. But this is just such amazing shelter against bad weather, but also with hot weather. And then 2 years ago, Reno had an idea for a wide hedge, a browsing hedge. We've just noticed if we move cattle into a field and there is a crabapple tree there, for example, they just all go on the crabapples. They all kind of trim the hedges back, any hazel. So this is 5 metre wide. Down the middle, we've got oak and silver birch. And then the next line is rowan, crabapple, aspen and bird cherry. Rowan, crabapple, aspen and bird cherry. And then the 2 outside lines, the hawthorn and dog rose, and then hazel and willow. And the idea is that in time it will grow over and then the cattle will browse it. The fence we've got, I don't know, that the kind of the top wire is electric, so they won't be able to push the fence. There'll be still some protection there. It is now 2 years old. It's really growing well. We did have to water it in the spring. So it's going to be this massive, huge hedge. And that will also be able to maybe get some wood chip out of as well for bedding. So the lessons I've learned is variety is a spice of life. Our first hedges are a bit boring with maybe too much hawthorn. You will be the best planter on your farm because you'll have the love. But if you do have planters, pay them well, don't pay them the minimum wage, and feed them well. And speed isn't always a good thing. And also get a peat, get advice where to plant things, what likes wet spots, what likes exposed spots. Also think about the woods we put in. We've thought about how we can actually walk through those woods or drive through those woods with a quad bike. So you can actually go in and enjoy those woods in years to come. Wiggles are good. We're just learning this probably more so now. Straight lines are quite dull. Straight lines don't happen in nature. Ongoing care, I think... this happens a lot around here, but people do big planting sessions and then walk away, take the payment and so it's that ongoing beating up, going through every year for the first few years, just patching up. Leave the guards on until the trees burst the guards. We've taken some guards off too early, and this is because in our particular area we've got lots of roe deer and they just love nibbling things. So my next one is control the nibblers. A gun does help and it tastes quite good. It's nice to have some deer, but too many equals chaos. Silver birch is a tree that grows really easily and obviously protects the others while they're growing more slowly, but we've had lots of silver birches just to snap off in the wind. So, and Pete did tell us to do this, but we didn't do it. It's just to trim them at the top to stop that kind of sail effect. I think we should plant flowers as well within these woodlands and just along hedges, just for more variety. And also fruit trees. I'm thinking, wouldn't it be nice to go and get the cows or do a sheep move and then have an apple tree or a damson tree just to grab some fruit off. And that's where we're going to next, maybe some more kind of alley cropping type enterprises. And I think I'm done.